The pattern does not change when you notice it. It changes when you replace it. Right now, the body expects interruption. It prepares for the stop. It releases tension before continuation can happen. That expectation was built the same way the original sequence was built. Through repetition. Nothing else. No decision created it. No awareness reinforced it. Only repeated behavior. That is why it holds. And that is why it can be replaced. Not by correcting the whole sequence at once, but by restoring one connection. One movement that does not stop. You begin. The first action lands. The pause appears, as expected. But this time, you do not stay in it. You move again immediately. The body resists. Timing feels off. Breath breaks. The connection is unstable. That does not matter. You move anyway. Not clean. Not smooth. But continuous. That single continuation is different. It interrupts the interruption. You do it again. Movement. The pause tries to form. You remove it. You move again. The body struggles to adapt. It has learned to stop. Now it is being forced to continue. The tension increases. Breath tightens. Posture strains to hold alignment longer than it has in recent repetitions. This is where the pattern begins to shift. Not through ease. Through enforcement. You repeat it. Again. And again. Each time, the continuation becomes slightly less unstable. The gap shortens. The body begins to expect the next movement instead of the stop. Slowly, the weight returns between actions. Continuity starts to rebuild. Not fully, but enough. And that is all repetition needs. Because repetition does not require perfection. It requires consistency. What you repeat becomes what the body trusts. What the body trusts becomes what it does without hesitation. So the interruption fades. Not because it was removed. Because it was replaced. This is no longer something you think about. It is something you enforce. And once enforced enough times, it becomes the only pattern that remains. No pause. No delay. No decision. Just continuation. This is what stays. This is what repeats. This is what you become. You were supposed to follow the same sequence today. But the pattern broke, quietly, without resistance. And now the absence is starting to repeat itself. This is where behavior is fixed through repetition, not adjusted through thought. The sequence was already decided. Same place. Same order. Same time. Yet the body stayed still. No interruption. No emergency. Just a break in something that was meant to be stable. The gap is small, but it carries weight. Once the sequence loosens, everything becomes optional again. You notice it in the delay before movement. A pause that wasn't there before. Hands hesitate. Breathing shifts. The body waits for permission that should no longer be required. Nothing dramatic. Just a slight drift away from what was fixed. That drift is the problem. Not the action itself, but the loss of sequence that once removed the need to decide. The break didn't feel like a decision. It felt like nothing. The sequence was there, waiting, but the body didn't enter it. That's how it starts. Not with refusal, but with absence. You sit in the same place where the sequence should begin. The position is familiar. The timing is correct. But the first movement is missing. Hands rest longer than they should. Shoulders stay loose instead of setting into position. Breath drifts instead of locking into rhythm. The pattern used to carry you. No thought required. You would stand, move, begin. The order handled everything. Now there's a gap between each step. A small space where the body hesitates. Inside that space, the same pattern begins to form. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet suggestion. Not now. It doesn't argue. It doesn't explain. It just delays. That delay repeats. You notice it the second time, the third time. The sequence no longer pulls you forward. You have to push into it. That's the shift. When repetition stops being automatic, the weight returns. The body feels it first. Arms slower to lift. Spine less aligned. Breathing uneven. The movement that used to be clean now feels slightly forced. Not because it's difficult, but because it's no longer embedded. And once it's no longer embedded, the system weakens. You try to restart it. You tell yourself to just begin. But now there is a gap between intention and action. That gap is where the pattern is breaking. Someone nearby notices. Not directly. They don't say anything. But their behavior changes. They stop expecting consistency from you. The quiet assumption that you will always follow through begins to fade. You become less predictable. That shift is subtle, but it matters. Because the sequence was never just about the action. It was about removing the need to decide. It was about building something that runs without discussion. Now discussion is back. Every step feels slightly negotiable. Every movement feels like it could be skipped. Not because you want to stop, but because the structure that prevented stopping is no longer tight. And once that structure loosens, the pattern begins to repeat in reverse. Not doing becomes easier. Skipping feels lighter. Delaying feels normal. The sequence fades, not all at once, but through repeated absence. And the more it fades, the harder it becomes to return to what used to require no effort at all. The second time it happens, it doesn't feel like a mistake anymore. It feels like a pattern forming. You return to the same starting point. Same time. Same place. But the body remembers the break. The hesitation shows up earlier now. Not at the first movement, but before it. Even before you sit down, there's already a slight resistance in the way you approach it. Your steps slow without reason. Your hands delay contact. The sequence hasn't changed, but your entry into it has. That's how repetition works in reverse. The body adapts just as quickly to absence as it does to action. You notice your posture before you begin. It's not set. Shoulders slightly dropped. Spine not fully engaged. Breathing shallow, inconsistent. These are small shifts, but they signal something precise. The sequence is no longer leading. You are. And that is the problem. Because once you lead, you begin to decide. And once you decide, the door opens again. The same quiet pattern returns. Not necessary right now. It doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels like flexibility. Like you are allowing space. But that space is where repetition weakens. You delay one step. Then another. The order begins to blur. What was once fixed now feels adjustable. You start thinking about the sequence instead of entering it. And thinking introduces friction. Your breathing becomes uneven again. There's a slight tightness in your chest now. Not from effort, but from interruption. The body is trying to re-enter a rhythm that it no longer trusts will continue. So it hesitates. Again. Someone passes by. They glance briefly. No reaction. No judgment. But there is no recognition either. You are no longer identified with the pattern. There's no expectation tied to your movement anymore. You've become variable. That change doesn't announce itself. It settles in quietly. You feel it in how you start. In how you pause. In how you consider whether to continue. And once consideration appears, repetition is no longer intact. Because repetition removes that layer completely. It doesn't ask. It doesn't adjust. It runs. But now, Every step requires confirmation. You begin, but the movement feels disconnected. Each part of the sequence stands on its own, instead of flowing into the next. There's no carry. No automatic continuation. You complete part of it, then stop. Not because you can't continue. Because nothing forces you to. The structure that used to carry you forward has loosened enough to allow interruption. And once interruption becomes possible, it becomes frequent. The pattern shifts again. You don't fully stop. But you don't fully continue either. You exist between. Starting without finishing. Entering without completing. Repeating without reinforcing. And in that state, nothing builds. By the third break, the body no longer expects continuity. You approach the same sequence, but there is no internal pull toward it. No automatic alignment. The steps exist, but they feel separate now. Disconnected pieces instead of a single flow. Your hand reaches, then pauses midair. Not from fatigue. From uncertainty. That pause didn't exist before. Now it repeats. The body begins to resist in a different way. Not heavy. Not slow. Just slightly out of sync. Movements start, then stall. Breath tightens for no clear reason. The rhythm that once carried everything forward is gone, and without it, each action feels like an isolated decision. This is where the conflict becomes visible. Not loud. Not emotional. Just constant. You begin the first part. It feels incomplete. You move to the next step, but there's a break between them. The connection is missing. You notice it, but you continue anyway. Not smoothly. Not cleanly. The sequence is still there, but it no longer governs behavior. You do. And that introduces instability. The same internal pattern tightens its grip. Do it later. Not necessary right now. No argument follows. No resistance to that thought. It passes through without friction because the system that used to block it is no longer active. Your shoulders tighten slightly as you stand still. Breath shortens. Fingers flex without purpose. The body is waiting again. Waiting for a decision that should not exist. This is the point where repetition used to take over. Now, it doesn't. Someone nearby adjusts their own routine without looking at you. Their sequence continues without interruption. The contrast is clear, but silent. No one points it out. No one needs to. The difference is visible in timing alone. They move without pause. You don't. That gap keeps widening. You attempt to push through it. You force the next step. It works for a moment. The body follows, but without stability. The movement feels temporary, like it could stop again at any point. Because it can. Nothing is locking it in place anymore. Each repetition feels like it might be the last. Not because of difficulty, but because continuation is no longer guaranteed. The structure that once enforced continuity has weakened to the point where stopping is always an option. And when stopping is always an option, stopping becomes part of the pattern. You begin again. Pause. Continue. Pause. The sequence fragments further. What used to be one continuous motion is now a series of separate starts. Each one requires effort. Each one risks interruption. The body adapts to this new pattern quickly. It learns that stopping is acceptable. It learns that delay has no consequence. It learns that repetition is no longer required. And once that learning sets in, returning to the original sequence becomes harder than maintaining the broken one. The break has repeated enough times that it no longer feels like a break. It feels like the new sequence. You step into position again, but there is no expectation of continuity. The body doesn't prepare the same way. Shoulders remain slightly loose. Breath enters uneven, exits without control. The posture that once signaled the start is missing. So the start itself becomes unstable. You move into the first action. It happens, but without weight. No carry into the next step. Just a single motion, isolated, unsupported. The moment it ends, the body resets instead of continuing. That reset is the problem. Because now every part of the sequence exists alone. Nothing connects forward. Nothing forces the next movement. You are left standing between actions, deciding again. And the decision point is where the pattern collapses. The same internal pattern tightens further. Skip this one. Continue later. There is no urgency behind it. No pressure. It sounds neutral. Reasonable. That is why it works. The body follows it without resistance. Your stance shifts slightly. Weight moves from one foot to the other. Fingers loosen. The tension required to continue is not held. It dissolves the moment the action ends. You begin again, but slower. There is a delay before each movement now. Small, but consistent. The sequence stretches. What used to be tight becomes spaced out. The rhythm breaks into fragments. Nearby, someone maintains their pace. Their movements are consistent, unbroken. They don't accelerate. They don't slow. They don't pause. That difference becomes visible without being acknowledged. You feel it in your own timing. Each pause makes the next step heavier. Not physically. Structurally. Because every pause reintroduces the need to decide. And every decision weakens repetition. You try to remove the pause. You attempt to move directly into the next step. It works once. Then the delay returns. The pattern resists correction because the sequence is no longer enforcing itself. You are trying to enforce it manually. And manual control is unstable. The body doesn't hold tension long enough to sustain the sequence. Breath breaks between movements. Posture resets too early. The alignment that once carried multiple steps forward no longer exists. So the sequence shortens. You complete less before stopping. Then less again. Until the entire pattern becomes a series of partial attempts. Start. Pause. Stop. Reset. Each cycle reinforces the same outcome. Nothing continues. Nothing builds. Nothing locks in. And once that becomes familiar, returning to full continuity feels unnatural. Not because it's harder. Because it's no longer recognized. The pattern has shifted far enough that others begin to adjust around it. No one says anything directly. There is no confrontation. But the space around you changes. The timing no longer aligns. Where your movement used to fit into a shared rhythm, it now falls out of sync. You arrive at the same time, but you don't begin at the same time. That difference is noticed. Not through words. Through absence. They stop waiting. They no longer match your pace. The expectation that you will move in sequence disappears. You become someone who might start, might pause, might stop. Unreliable in timing. That label is never spoken, but it is applied. You feel it when you step into position again. The environment is the same, but your place inside it has shifted. You are no longer part of a continuous flow. You are separate from it. That separation increases pressure. Your breath tightens slightly as you notice the gap. Shoulders pull inward. The body becomes more aware of itself, but less controlled. The more you try to rejoin the rhythm, the more noticeable the delay becomes. You begin the sequence again. The first movement lands. Then a pause. You feel it immediately. That pause wasn't there before. Now it's expected. The body anticipates it. Almost prepares for it. And that anticipation makes it longer. Someone moves past you without adjusting their pace. They don't slow down. They don't wait. They don't look back. They continue. You don't. The difference is clear. You try to shorten the gap. You move into the next action faster. For a moment, it works. The sequence almost reconnects. The body feels a brief return to alignment. Then it breaks again. The pause returns. Because the pattern underneath hasn't changed. The same internal signal repeats. Not necessary to continue right now. It feels neutral, controlled, like a choice. But it's not a choice anymore. It's a pattern. And patterns repeat without needing permission. Your posture begins to reflect it. Slight shifts between movements. Weight transfers too early. Breath interrupts itself. The body no longer holds tension across steps. It releases too soon. That early release is what creates the gap. You begin again. Movement. Pause. Movement. Pause. The rhythm becomes predictable in its inconsistency. Others no longer react to it. They've already adjusted. Their sequence continues without reference to yours. You are no longer part of a shared pattern. You operate alone. And alone, the sequence becomes weaker. Because there is nothing reinforcing it externally. No alignment. No timing pressure. No expectation. Only your own ability to maintain it. And that ability is already compromised. So the pattern continues to degrade. Not through failure. Through repetition of the break. The break is no longer something that happens. It is something that continues. You step into position, but there is no expectation that anything will carry forward. The body has adapted to interruption. It no longer prepares for continuity. It prepares for stopping. Your stance shows it. Feet set, but not grounded. Shoulders aligned, but not held. Breath enters, then drops before it can stabilize. The moment before movement feels loose, uncommitted. You begin. The first action lands, but it ends immediately. No extension into the next. No transfer of momentum. Just a clean stop. That stop is where the pattern lives now. It repeats without effort. You try to move again. There's a delay. Small, but already expected. The body doesn't resist it. It allows it. That's the shift. Resistance used to be against starting. Now there is no resistance to stopping. Stopping feels normal. Continuing feels forced. The internal signal is no longer a suggestion. It's embedded. Pause. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just constant. You follow it without noticing. Hands relax too early. Spine softens between movements. Breath resets instead of carrying through. Each action is isolated, disconnected from the next. The sequence has collapsed into fragments. You attempt to rebuild it by speeding up. For a moment, the actions connect. One flows into another. The body almost remembers the original rhythm. Then it breaks again. Because speed is not structure. Without structure, continuity cannot hold. Someone nearby adjusts their position, but not for you. They move around your pauses without slowing down. They've adapted fully. Your timing no longer matters to them. That is the final shift in the environment. You are no longer part of any shared rhythm. Only your own. And your rhythm is broken. You begin again. Movement. Stop. Movement. Stop. The pattern repeats with precision. Not because it's effective. Because it's learned. The body has been trained to interrupt itself. To release tension before it should. To reset instead of continue. And repetition has locked that behavior in place. You feel it in the transitions. That space between actions has weight now. It pulls you into it. It invites you to stay there longer each time. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave. So you begin less often. You complete less fully. You stop more easily. Until the sequence is no longer recognizable as a sequence. Just a series of starts that never become anything more. And the body accepts it. Because repetition doesn't judge. It only reinforces. The repetition has settled into something stable. Not the original sequence. A different one. You step into position and the body already knows what will happen. Not the full pattern. Just the interruption. It prepares for the stop before the first movement begins. That preparation shows in small ways. Your grip isn't fully set. Your stance is slightly off-center. Breath comes in, but doesn't anchor. The body is ready to release before it even engages. You begin. The first action is clean. It always is. But it ends too early. No carry. No continuation. Just a stop that feels expected. You don't question it anymore. That's the shift. The pause is no longer noticed as a problem. It feels like part of the process. A normal gap. Something built into the rhythm. But it's not rhythm. It's interruption repeated enough times to feel natural. You try to extend the movement. You push into the next step immediately. The body resists, not with force, but with misalignment. Timing slips. Breath breaks. The connection between actions doesn't hold. Because the pattern underneath is stronger. It has been repeated more. Repetition decides what stays. Not intention. Not awareness. Only what has been done, again and again. Someone nearby continues their sequence without change. Same pace. Same order. No visible effort to maintain it. Their body doesn't prepare to stop. It prepares to continue. That difference is no longer sharp. It's settled. You exist in one pattern. They exist in another. There is no overlap anymore. You begin again. Movement. Stop. Movement. Stop. Each cycle reinforces itself. The body doesn't wait for instruction. It follows what it has learned. And what it has learned is interruption. You notice how little energy it takes to maintain this broken pattern. There's no strain. No pressure. Because nothing is being carried forward. Each action stands alone, ends alone. There is no weight between them. That absence of weight is what keeps it in place. Because continuity requires tension. And tension is no longer held. You try once more to connect the sequence. You move faster. You reduce the gap. For a brief moment, it aligns. One action leads into the next. Then the break returns. Right where it always does. Predictable. Unavoidable. Because the pattern has been reinforced too many times. The body trusts it now. And trust is built through repetition. Not through intention. Not through correction. Through what is done repeatedly, without interruption. Now interruption is what repeats. And so interruption is what becomes stable.